Zoe thought she was texting her dead father when she sent "Daddy, I'm scared. Please come home" to his old number at midnight. What she didn't know was that the number had been reassigned to Vincent Kane, a Mafia boss who'd lost his own daughter 5 years ago and kept that line sacred. Within minutes, 3 black SUVs rolled onto her quiet street, and the man stepping out of the center vehicle looked like he'd seen a ghost, because in a way, he had. The bedroom was dark except for a nightlight shaped like a crescent moon. Zoe pressed herself between her bed and the wall, knees tucked to her chest, her father's old phone clutched in both hands. Downstairs, her stepfather slammed cabinet doors, his voice a low rumble that made the walls feel thin. Her mother had been asleep for hours. The medication did that now. Made her disappear where she didn't have to hear the yelling or see the bruises. Zoe's thumb hovered over the screen. She'd memorized the number years ago, back when her real father was alive. Back when Daddy meant safety. The social worker said the number wouldn't work anymore, that phone lines get recycled, that she needed to let go. But tonight, with the shouting downstairs and the ache in her chest, she had to try. She typed slowly, "Daddy, I'm scared. Please come home." A crash echoed from the kitchen. She pressed send. She didn't know that 15 miles away, a phone buzzed on a marble desk. Vincent Kane stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse, scotch in hand, watching the city sprawl beneath him. He controlled ports, politicians, and secrets that kept powerful men awake at night. But he couldn't control the empty chair at his dining table, the locked bedroom down the hall, the way his chest tightened every time he saw a little girl with dark curls. 5 years since Isabel died. 5 years since he'd failed at the only thing that mattered. His phone buzzed. Only 4 people had this number. Each knew to use it only for emergencies. The number was unknown. Impossible. The message read, "Daddy, I'm scared. Please come home." Vincent's breath stopped. For one fracturing moment, his mind conjured the irrational, Isabel reaching across the void. Reality crushed it immediately. This was a trick. A probe. Or a message meant for someone else, sent to a ghost. He stared at the words. "Daddy. Scared. Come home." His daughter's last words had been, "It's okay, Daddy. Don't be sad." His finger hovered over delete. He didn't press it. Instead, he forwarded the message to his head of security. "Trace it. Now." He stood alone in his tower of glass and steel, staring at a text from a little girl who'd reached into the darkness and touched the one man in the city who understood exactly how she felt. The call came back in 4 minutes. "Boss." Marco's voice was crisp, efficient. "The trace is complete. Address is 4257 Ashwood Lane. Registered to a Jennifer Hartley. The phone is listed to a deceased." He paused. "Michael Hartley. Died 3 years ago. Looks like his daughter kept the device." Vincent's grip tightened on the phone. "A child. Based on the account records, yes sir. The number was reassigned to your line 18 months ago when the account lapsed. Some clerical error. It should have been deactivated. A wrong number. A glitch in the system. A little girl texting her dead father." Vincent should have ended the call. Deleted the message. Returned to his scotch and his ghost. "Send 2 cars," he heard himself say. "I'm going personally." Silence. Then, "Sir. You heard me." He hung up before Marco could question an order that made no sense. If you want to discover how this story began and what happened after this moment, subscribe to the channel and leave in the comments where you're watching from. Each view helps bring more stories like this one. Zoe had almost fallen asleep when she heard them. Engines. Multiple. Heavy and low, the kind that purred with expensive power. She crawled to the window and peeled back the curtain. 3 black SUVs rolled silently onto her street, headlights cutting through the darkness like predator eyes. They stopped in front of her house, forming a semicircle that blocked the driveway. Her heart hammered. She'd seen cars like this before, on TV, in movies. The kind that came when something very bad or very important was happening. Downstairs, the yelling had stopped. Car doors opened in unison. Men stepped out, dressed in dark suits, moving with a kind of precision that made them seem more like soldiers than people. They didn't rush, didn't shout. Their silence was worse. Then another door opened. A man stepped from the center vehicle, taller than the others, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her mother's car. Even from the second floor, Zoe could see his face was hard, carved from stone and shadows. He looked up. Their eyes met through the window. Zoe jerked back, heart in her throat, but it was too late. He'd seen her. The doorbell rang. Not a knock. Not a bang. A doorbell. Polite. Patient. Her stepfather's voice erupted from downstairs. What the hell? Zoe crept to her bedroom door, cracking it open. She could see the top of the staircase, the foyer below bathed in porch light streaming through the side window. Her stepfather yanked open the door. Do you have any idea what time it? He stopped. Vincent Kane stood on the threshold, hands in his pockets, flanked by two men who looked like they could break a person in half without wrinkling their suit. Good evening, Vincent said quietly. His voice was smooth, controlled, but there was something underneath it, something cold and vast. I'm looking for the person who sent me a text message approximately 19 minutes ago. From this address. Zoe's stepfather, Ray, paled. I don't know what you're talking about. You've got the wrong. I don't make mistakes. Vincent's eyes moved past him, scanning the interior. The message came from here. I'd like to speak with them. Listen, buddy, I don't know who you think you are. I know exactly who I am. Vincent's gaze returned to Ray, and something in it made the bigger man take a step back. The question is whether you'd like to have this conversation civilly, or whether my associates need to facilitate it. Zoe's hands trembled on the doorframe. She didn't understand what was happening, didn't know who this man was or why he'd come. But she knew, somehow, in the part of her that still believed in impossible things, that he was here because of her message. The man who had her daddy's number had come. Ray crossed his arms, blocking the doorway. My stepdaughter's asleep. Whatever prank she pulled, I'll handle it. You can leave. Vincent didn't move. I'd prefer to hear that from her. She's 8. She doesn't know what she did. Then there's no harm in me verifying that. The standoff stretched. Ray's jaw worked, calculation flickering behind his eyes. Finally, he stepped aside with visible reluctance. 5 minutes. Then you're gone. Vincent entered, his men remaining outside. The house was modest, worn at the edges. Family photos lined the hallway. A woman, a little girl, a man who was conspicuously absent from the recent ones. The air smelled like microwaved dinners and something medicinal. His chest tightened. This felt too familiar. Too real. What am I doing here? Upstairs, Zoe pressed against her door, paralyzed between terror and hope. Zoe! Ray's voice boomed up the stairs. Get down here. Now. She flinched. When he used that tone, bad things followed. But she opened the door. The man stood in her foyer, impossibly tall, looking around her shabby home like he'd stepped into a different world. When his eyes found her on the stairs, something flickered across his face. Pain, recognition, something she didn't have words for. You sent the message, Vincent said. Not a question. Zoe nodded, unable to speak. To this number. He held up his phone, showing her own words glowing on the screen. I'm sorry. Her voice came out small. I didn't mean to bother anyone. My daddy used to have that number, and I thought maybe. Her throat closed. Vincent's expression hardened, but not with anger. With something worse. Understanding. Your father's dead. 3 years ago. Tears pricked her eyes. I know the number doesn't work anymore. I know it's stupid. But sometimes I just need, she couldn't finish, to feel less alone. Vincent heard the unspoken words because he'd thought them 1,000 times himself. This was a mistake. He should leave. This little girl wasn't his responsibility, wasn't his daughter, Wasn't his second chance because there were no second chances. I apologize for the intrusion, he said, his voice colder now, professional. The number was reassigned to me. You won't be able to reach your father through it. Zoe's face crumpled. Time's up, Ray interjected, moving toward the door. She didn't mean any harm. Won't happen again. Vincent turned to leave. Every instinct screamed to walk away. Then he saw it. A fading bruise on Zoe's forearm, the yellow-green of something a week old. The way she stood, weight shifted, protecting her left side. The fear in her eyes that wasn't about him. His hand stopped on the doorframe. Does your mother know you have that phone? He asked quietly. Zoe shook her head. She's sick. She sleeps a lot. I see. Vincent's gaze slid to Ray, who'd gone very still. And you take care of her when your stepfather is busy? The question landed like a blade. My personal life is none of your business, Ray said, his voice tight. You need to leave. Now. Vincent didn't move. The child mentioned her mother is ill. What's the diagnosis? Again, none of your concern. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The voice came from the top of the stairs. A woman stood there, frail and hollowed out, one hand braced against the wall. Jennifer Hartley looked like a ghost already. Skin pale, eyes sunken, a scarf wrapped around her head where hair used to be. Mom, Zoe started toward her. It's all right, sweetheart. Jennifer descended slowly, each step deliberate. I heard voices. Her gaze fixed on Vincent with surprising sharpness. You're not police. Not social services. So who are you, and why are you in my home at midnight asking about my daughter? Vincent found himself respecting her directness. Your daughter accidentally contacted me. I came to ensure she was safe. Safe. Jennifer's laugh was bitter. Look at you. $3,000 suit. Armed men outside. You don't come to a neighborhood like this because you care about safety. So I'll ask again, who are you? Their eyes locked. Vincent saw no fear there, only the fierce protectiveness of a dying mother. Someone who understands what it's like to lose a child, he said quietly. The air shifted. Jennifer's expression softened slightly, reading the truth in his face. Ray stepped forward. Jen, go back to bed. I'll handle. You'll handle nothing. She didn't look at him. Mr. Kane. Mr. Kane, my daughter is a good girl who misses her father. If she bothered you, I apologize. But as you can see, she's fine. We're managing. Vincent's gaze traveled deliberately over the scene. Zoe's bruise, Ray's aggressive posture, Jennifer's defensive exhaustion, the prescription bottles lined up on the side table like soldiers. How long? He asked Jennifer. She understood. 3 months. Maybe 4. And after? The question hung there, brutal and necessary. Jennifer's composure cracked. Theirs. Ray has agreed to. Like hell. Ray's face reddened. I never agreed to keep her. I told you, she'll go to the state. You bastard. Jennifer swayed, and Zoe rushed to support her. Vincent moved on instinct, steadying them both. Jennifer's arm was bone-thin under his hand. Sit, he commanded, guiding her to the couch. Get your hands off her. Ray lunged forward. He didn't make it 2 steps. The front door opened and Marco appeared, his presence a silent promise of violence. Vincent held up one hand, stopping him. Mr. Hartley, I suggest you step outside. Cool off. This is my house. And I'm asking nicely. Vincent's voice dropped to something dangerous. Once. Ray looked between them, Vincent's cold certainty, Marco's ready stance, his wife's exhausted defiance. Calculation won over pride. 5 minutes, he snarled and stormed out. Vincent turned to Jennifer. Now, tell me the truth about what happens to your daughter when you're gone. Jennifer sagged into the couch, Zoe tucked against her side. Ray married me 2 years ago, when I was healthy, when I had life insurance and a little inheritance from Michael. Her voice was hollow. The insurance is gone. The money's gone. and his interest in playing father went with it. Vincent's jaw tightened. He's abusive. He's angry, Jennifer corrected, though her eyes said she knew the truth. And when I'm gone, he'll surrender Zoe to the state. I have no family. Michael's parents are dead. I've tried to find someone, anyone, but, her voice broke. Zoe's hand slipped into her mother's. It's okay, Mama. It's not okay. Jennifer looked at Vincent with desperate intensity. My daughter will end up in foster care with nothing of her father's but memories. And I'll die knowing I failed to protect her. Vincent understood that guilt. Had lived with it every day since. His gaze caught on Zoe's wrist. A medical ID bracelet, pink and worn. He'd seen it before but hadn't registered it. Now, something about it triggered a memory so sharp it stole his breath. May I? He gestured to the bracelet. Zoe extended her arm shyly. Vincent's fingers, hands that had broken men, signed death warrants, built an empire on violence, trembled slightly as he turned the bracelet to read the inscription. Zoe Hartley. Type 1 diabetes. Emergency contact. Michael Hartley. The numbers blurred. He was suddenly 5 years in the past, holding a different small hand, reading a different bracelet. Isabel Kane. Type 1 diabetes. Where did she get this? His voice was too rough. Jennifer blinked. St. Catherine's Hospital. The Pediatric Diabetes Center. They make them for all the children. Why? St. Catherine's. The same hospital where Isabel had been treated. Where she died. What year? She was diagnosed 4 years ago. November. The same month Isabel had been in the ICU for complications. The same month Vincent had spent 72 sleepless hours in that hospital, watching his daughter fight for life through a glass window. He looked at Zoe, really looked. Dark hair like Isabel's. Similar age. Same disease. Same hospital. The clinic on the 4th floor, he said distantly. Dr. Patel? Jennifer's eyes widened. Yes. How did you? My daughter was a patient there. The words came out before he could stop them. She had diabetes. She died 5 years ago. Pneumonia, complicated by, he couldn't finish. The room went silent. Zoe stared up at him with huge eyes. You're a daddy too? The simple question shattered something in his chest. I was, Vincent whispered. Does it stop hurting? Zoe asked. Missing them? He looked at this little girl who'd accidentally reached across the void and found the one person who could understand her pain. No, he said honestly. But you learn to carry it. Jennifer was crying silently. Mr. Kane. She won't go into the system. The words came out like a vow. I'll make sure of it. Vincent made 2 calls. The first was to his lawyer. I need emergency custody options. Legal and otherwise. I'll send details. The second was to his doctor. I need a pediatric diabetes specialist at St. Catherine's. Best one available. Money is irrelevant. Jennifer watched him work, hope and disbelief warring on her face. You can't just, you don't even know us. I know enough. Vincent pocketed his phone. Your daughter needs stability. Medical care. Safety. I can provide all 3. Why? Jennifer's voice cracked. Why would you do this for strangers? Vincent looked at Zoe, curled on the couch, watching him like he was something miraculous and terrifying all at once. Because someone should have done it for my daughter, he said quietly. And didn't. Zoe shifted closer. What was her name? Your daughter. Isabel. That's pretty. Zoe's voice was soft. What was she like? Vincent hadn't talked about her in 5 years, had locked every memory behind walls of granite and rage. But something about this little girl's earnest face made the walls crack. Stubborn, he said, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. She hated broccoli, loved terrible jokes. She'd test her blood sugar without complaining, but she'd negotiate for an extra story every single night. Did you give it to her? Every time. Zoe smiled for the first time since he'd arrived. You were a good daddy. The words hit him like a bullet. I tried to be, Vincent said roughly. I failed. My daddy tried too. Zoe's fingers traced the bracelet. He had a heart attack. Mama said sometimes trying isn't enough, but it still matters. Vincent had commanded armies of men, negotiated with killers, stared down death without flinching. But this 8-year-old's wisdom unmanned him completely. Your father was right to be proud of you, he managed. Will you tell me more about Isabel? Zoe asked. If I promise not to text you anymore? Something loosened in Vincent's chest. You can text me whenever you want. But, he pulled out his phone, showing her the screen. Save the number properly this time. And use it if you ever need help. Anytime. Day or night. Zoe's eyes went wide. Really? Really? She threw her arms around him without warning. The embrace was quick, fierce, desperate, the hug of a child starved for safety. Vincent froze, then slowly, carefully, hugged her back. Over her head, he met Jennifer's tear-streaked face. She mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." Outside, Ray's shadow passed by the window. Vincent's expression hardened. The bonding moment was real, but so was the danger. And men like Ray didn't surrender their leverage easily. Jennifer, Vincent said quietly, is there something you're not telling me about your husband? Her face went pale. That was answer enough. Jennifer's hands twisted in her lap. Ray has connections. Men who come by sometimes. They don't look like normal friends. Vincent's blood went cold. What kind of men? Dangerous ones. They speak in code. Sometimes Ray makes calls and then suddenly we have money, even though he hasn't worked in months. I've heard names, Dimitri, Sergio Vanzetti? Vincent's voice turned to ice. Jennifer nodded, confused. You know him? Vincent knew him. Vanzetti ran the North Side operation, Vincent's primary rival. They'd been at war for 3 years over port access, each testing the other's boundaries. This wasn't coincidence. This was a setup. How long has Ray known where I live? My routes? He stopped himself. When did these men start coming around? About 6 months after we married. Why? What does this? The window exploded. Glass showered the room as a brick crashed through, wrapped in paper. Marco burst through the door, weapon drawn, as Vincent threw himself over Zoe and Jennifer. Get down! Outside, tires squealed. Gunfire erupted, sharp cracks that shattered the night. Vincent's men returned fire, the street transforming into a war zone. Vincent grabbed the brick, unfolding the paper with one hand while shielding Zoe with his body. Touch our asset again, Kane, and we'll burn your whole world. The girl was bait. You took it. Now everyone you love is a target. His vision tunneled. Ray had been planted. The dying wife, the vulnerable child, all of it designed to draw Vincent out, make him expose a weakness. And it had worked. We need to move, Marco shouted. They're flanking. Ray appeared in the doorway, phone in hand, face twisted with desperate malice. You should have left when I told you to. Vincent rose, fury incarnate. You sold out a dying woman and her child? I sold out nothing. Vanzetti promised me money, a fresh start. By making your stepdaughter bait? Vincent's hand went to the gun at his back. Zoe screamed. Stop. Please stop. Jennifer clutched her daughter, sobbing. Ray, what did you do? What did you do? What I had to. Ray's voice cracked. You think I wanted to play house with a corpse and her brat? Vanzetti offered me a way out. Vincent's gun cleared its holster. Marco moved to intercept, but Vincent's voice stopped him. Get them out. Now. Secure location. Full protection detail. Boss. Now. Marco hesitated, then grabbed Jennifer and Zoe. Let's go. Move. Zoe fought against him. Wait. Please, I don't understand. She reached for Vincent, tears streaming. You said I could call you. You said. I was wrong. Vincent's voice was dead, cold. This is my world, Zoe. And it destroys everything it touches. You'll be safer if I'm nowhere near you. No. Daddy. The word broke him and doomed her in the same breath. I'm not your father, he roared. Go. Marco carried her out, her screams echoing as Vincent turned back to Ray, gun raised, everything good he'd felt for one brief hour burned to ash. Vincent didn't pull the trigger. Ray collapsed anyway, scrambling backward. Please, I didn't know they'd shoot up the place. I just gave them your route, the number. Get out of my sight. Vincent's voice was lethal quiet. If I see you again, I won't hesitate. Ray fled into the night. Vincent stood in the destroyed living room, surrounded by shattered glass and the ghost of a little girl's voice calling him Daddy. He'd done the right thing. Pushed her away. His world was poison, tonight proved it. Zoe deserved better than a monster playing at redemption. His phone rang. Marco. They're secure. Safe house on the east side. The mother's asking for you. The girl won't stop crying. Vincent closed his eyes. Good. Keep them there until I neutralize Vanzetti. Then arrange foster placement. Vetted, safe, far from this city. Silence. Then, boss, with respect, what the hell are you doing? My job. Your job isn't pushing away a kid who needs you. My job is staying alive. And keeping targets off the backs of civilians. Vincent's hand tightened on the phone. She's not my daughter, Marco. No. But she could be. Vincent hung up. He returned to his penthouse as dawn broke. Called his underboss. Vanzetti would be dead by nightfall, his operation dismantled, the threat eliminated. Problem solved. Except his chest felt like a crater, and Isabel's room was still locked down the hall, and he couldn't stop hearing Zoe's voice. Does it stop hurting? His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, one of Marco's burner phones. A photo. Zoe, asleep on a couch, tear tracks on her face, clutching her phone. Jennifer beside her, one frail hand on her daughter's hair. Then another message from Marco. She asked me to send this. Said to tell you she's sorry for calling you Daddy. Said she knows you're not him. But she hopes wherever you are, you're not alone. Vincent stared at the photo until his vision blurred. His daughter's room. He'd avoided it for 5 years. He stood, walked down the hall, and opened the door. Pink walls. Stuffed animals. A medical alert bracelet on the nightstand. Isabel's, the one she'd removed the day before she died because it itched. He picked it up. Held it next to his phone, where Zoe's message still glowed. Daddy, I'm scared. Please come home. 2 little girls. Same disease. Same hospital. Same bracelet. One he'd lost. One he could still save. His sister had once told him that grief either destroys you or remakes you. Vincent had chosen destruction for 5 years. Maybe it was time to choose differently. He made the call. Marco. I'm coming to the safe house. And contact my lawyer. I want emergency custody paperwork started. Whatever it takes. Boss. She called me Daddy. Vincent's voice cracked. And I'm not letting another little girl down. Not again. The safe house was a modest apartment across the city. Vincent arrived as morning light spilled through the windows. Marco opened the door. There in the bedroom. Mother's stable. The girl hasn't spoken since we arrived. Vincent's heart hammered as he walked down the hall. He knocked softly. Come in, Jennifer's weak voice called. He entered. Zoe sat on the bed beside her mother, staring at her hands. She didn't look up. Zoe, Vincent said gently. She flinched. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I didn't know. Stop. He crossed the room, kneeling so they were eye level. You have nothing to apologize for. I do. Her red-rimmed eyes finally met his. I was scared, Vincent said. When those men came, when I realized my world had put you in danger, I thought pushing you away would keep you safe. But your mother reminded me of something. He glanced at Jennifer, who nodded weakly. Running from the people who need us doesn't protect them. It just makes everyone alone. You're not leaving? Zoe's voice was so small. No. If you'll have me, I'd like to stay. Permanently. Jennifer took his hand. Mr. Kane has offered to become your legal guardian, sweetheart. When I'm gone, he'll take care of you. Zoe's eyes widened. Like a real dad? Vincent's throat tightened. I can't replace your father. I won't try. But I can promise you'll never be alone, never be unsafe, and never wonder if someone's coming when you call. Tears spilled down Zoe's cheeks. What if something bad happens again? Then we'll face it together. He held out his phone, the same one that had received her message. You still have my number? She nodded. Then use it. Any time. Any reason. I'll always answer. Zoe launched herself into his arms, sobbing. Vincent held her like he'd held Isabel, like he should have held on to everything precious before it slipped away. Thank you, Jennifer whispered, for giving me peace. 3 months later, Vincent sat in the hospital room where Jennifer had passed peacefully 2 weeks prior, holding Zoe's hand as Dr. Patel checked her insulin levels. Perfect numbers, the doctor smiled. You're doing great, Zoe. Dad helps me remember, Zoe said casually. Dad. She'd started calling him that a month ago. Not Daddy, that belonged to Michael. But Dad was hers to give, and she'd given it freely. Vincent's chest swelled every time. They left the hospital, the same one where he'd lost Isabel, but this time, he wasn't leaving alone. Ice cream, he offered. Only if I test again after, Zoe negotiated. Deal. As they walked to the car, Zoe's hand in his, Vincent felt something he thought had died 5 years ago. Hope. His phone buzzed. A text from Zoe, sent from beside him. Thank you for coming home, Dad. He looked down at her grinning face. Always, Vincent said. Always. If you felt something watching this, hit like, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from. I read every comment.